Long ago, a powerful deity bestowed mysterious stones upon humanity. According to legend, dancing with the stones could calm any evil at hand.
With its rich history and exotic wildlife, Caresaway Island is the ideal vacation spot. This luxury resort is full of fun activities for guests of all ages. You could win a group getaway with the purchase of a garlic burger. Good luck!
Huh? Oh yeah! So yummy! Give me 50 garlic burgers now!
50? And you get 50 chances to win!
Alright!
You pulled the grand prize getaway voucher! Congratulations, mister! You and 20 friends are going on a dream trip to Caresaway Island!
20 what? No!
That's enough to bring everyone along.
Don't forget us!
I want to go, pretty please.
Yeah, fine. A trip with these chumps doesn't feel like a prize. Just don't expect me to do any work. WarioWare!
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Coco Bandicoot here, and I am from the likes of the Mexi Toys videos. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our new Let's Play for our channel, and this time we're going back into the WarioWare series of games, and this time we're about to jump right into the latest entry in the series, and that's what appears to be WarioWare Move It. This game did first came out in 2023. God, I can't even believe about the fact it's been almost a year ago since when this game first came out, specifically in November in 2023. So as a result, this game did first announce back in Journey Phones within the Nintendo Direct some time ago in Journey Phones within also in 2023, to be more specifically, the 21st of June, alongside with the forms of the announcement of Super Mario Bros. Wonder. So as a result, this is actually the second WarioWare game to be released on the glorious Nintendo Switch. And believe it or not, WarioWare Move It is basically a successor to that Wii game called WarioWare Smooth Moves. Because if you couldn't tell already, this game heavily utilizes motion controls, specifically with the Joy-Con controllers. Something very similar to the forms of how it does it in Super Mario Party, as a matter of fact, and even with the upcoming Super Mario Party Jamboree during at some point in the next 3 months. So, either way though, because as you can tell, that we ended up in the title screen, what you can do with it is that you can able to actually move your Joy-Cons either left and right, so that way you can able to actually see different sketches of the actual sandy beach. So as a result, it looks remarkably similar function as the forms of the Wii Remote back in 2006 for WarioWare Smooth Moves. So, obviously though, it's about the fact that the art style of this game looks remarkably similar to the forms of how it does it in not only WarioWare Gold, but as well as WarioWare Get It Together for the Nintendo Switch. So generally speaking, that was about the fact that similar to the forms of how it does in our playthrough of WarioWare Get It Together, where the main focus of this entire playthrough is that we're going to be focusing on story mode from now on. And as far as party mode is concerned, I'll save that for later, alongside with the forms of some additional content here and there as well. But this is clearly because no matter what though, I still need to try to fix the forms of the laptop battery problem, but hopefully I will do once we get to the forms of next week or something. So for now on though, we'll just go ahead and play WarioWare Move It for now on. So anyway, right from the start though, if you couldn't tell already, the game did manage to take place in a different environment this time around, which this is also is the reason why, that much like the forms of how it does it in Sonic Rush Adventure, that I'm actually going to be playing this game for a perfect opportunity for the sake of the forms of summer themed. So, if you couldn't tell already, yes indeed, we ended up in Caresaway Island, which is basically like a tropical island beach setting. So as a result, no matter what though, is about the fact that we can able to actually experience tropical environment, and in addition to that, much like the previous WarioWare games, there's going to be even more micro games we can able to actually interact with. So either way, Except the fact that this time around though, we have to force to able to use not only one Joy-Con, but two Joy-Cons. So even then though, we'll talk more about those specific controllers until whenever we jump right into the actual game itself. And also, much like the forms of how it does it in WarioWare Get It Together, that basically though you can either experience story mode either by yourself, or if you have a buddy along with you, you can able to actually participate in co-op in 2-player, so that way we can able to actually work together to complete with the forms of several micro games, which I'll talk more about that particular mode until whenever we get onto the later stages in this game. So for now, I'm basically right-handed. So similar to the forms of how it does it in WarioWare Smooth Moves, you can choose between either right-handed or left-handed, depending on what hand you're going to be more accustomed to. So either way though, except the fact that we have to hold down one of those buttons this time around instead of the forms of just selecting it by simply click of a button. So either way though, so obviously I have to make sure I got enough space, which I certainly did, so that way I don't have to worry about the forms of accidentally knock into things like my amiibos, and even especially noticeable with certain merchandise that I somehow got from the Super Nintendo World, which yes indeed, I did experience Super Nintendo World in Hollywood, and as a result, I had a lot of fun with that particular amusement park in Universal Studios. So anyway, that particular topic can wait in another time, so for now, much like the forms of how it does it in any other WarioWare games, obviously though is about the fact that the game starts off as we're going to be going into the first stage in the game, which appears to be Wario. And as you can see, similar to the forms of how it does it in WarioWare Smooth Moves, we actually got ourselves a grand return of forms. However, some of them are actually very recognizable from the likes of WarioWare Smooth Moves, but the majority of them are actually brand new. So as a result, I cannot wait able to actually just to see what specific forms I can able to actually perform. So that way, we're about to find out. Until whenever we dive right into the very first stage in WarioWare Move It. So in some cases though, we'll just go ahead and press the ZL and ZR buttons to make sure everything else is all good, and we're about to get started. So enjoy the cutscenes before we jump right into the actual gameplay of WarioWare Move It. And there's also voice acting, so please enjoy.
Stone cold welcome. Me first! Out of the way, chumps!
Greetings! Welcome to the island! Please take these precious stones as a hello gift.
Oh, diamonds! Gimme.
Actually, they're form stones! Moving around with these in your hands can bring you good luck.
Huh? Stupid rocks! I don't want them! Huh? Oh, where am I?
Those who dare to approach the shrine
Will be punished.
What? Get out, trespasser! Huh?
Choo-choo. The voice from above speaks. Hold your form stones in your hands. Keep your arms close to your sides and bend your elbows at a right angle. Your thumbs must be on top. The voice saw that the people were unready and had them brace themselves for anything. This is the origin of choo-choo, a form to survive an absurd endeavor.
And so, the first form we somehow encountered is Choo-Choo. So, think of like you choo-choo the train or something like that. So yeah, basically though, that's essentially how the first form is actually going to play out to be. I mean, Obviously though, is about the fact that the first Wario stage is overall pretty short and easy, because no matter what though, similar to the previous games, not only does it contain a small amount of micro games, but it's also about the fact that you're pretty much more than welcome when it comes to likely get accustomed to how these micro games actually plays out to be. So yeah, let's get into the actual gameplay of WarioWare Move It. Basically though, if you ever experienced the previous WarioWare games, including WarioWare Smooth Moves, basically you feel right at home. Basically though, it's about the fact that when you start the stage off, you're able to actually have full lives. And as a result, if you manage able to succeed the actual micro game, either by accomplishing certain tasks, then you move on to the next. And basically though, it's about the fact that if you accidentally lose the actual micro game, obviously though you lose a life. However, if you run out of lives, obviously it'll be game over for you. But yeah, let's just say, between with the forms of WarioWare Gold, alongside with WarioWare Gear Together, and this as well, does manage able to introduce into ourselves with the Continue system, which I'll talk more about that if we dare manage to come across into ourselves our first game over. So, relatively speaking, I was about the fact that, like I said before, this Wario stage is actually, is that the Wario Watch from WarioWare Twisted? Okay, that's actually pretty interesting. And the more you progress on certain stages, every once in a while, the things decides able to speed up a little bit. And of course, much like the previous games, if you think you're about to be done, basically though, is about the fact that there's actually a boss micro game. So either way though, and I believe in this particular boss micro game right here, that involves around you hold these little hammers, and basically though, we need to attack those tentacles from that particular Wario octopus creature. And if you accidentally manage able to smack the actual electric eel, then obviously though, you will fail. So obviously though, you can't afford to make any mistakes, so you have to be absolute perfection. So anyways, here's the next segment right here, and basically though, we need to able to time this just right until you knock that particular cannonball right back at the forms of that octopus Wario creature. And that's it. But of course, much like the previous games, I'll be back for this stage again to get the more remaining micro games.
Lucky! These rocks rock! Get it?
You might actually realize about something is that much like the forms of how it does it in Super Mario Bros. Wonder, you do realize about the fact that Wario's voice sounds a lot different in this game. And what do I mean by that? Well, just like the forms of how it does it on Super Mario Bros. Wonder, Wario is being voiced by the exact same actor who did Mario and Luigi from Super Mario Bros. Wonder. That's what appears to be Kevin. I can't really pronounce the last surname very well, but that's just clearly because no matter what though, it's been about 6 months ago since I actually have last played Super Mario Bros. Wonder. So, anyways, as you can see, not only did we somehow manage able to actually access to the next stage, which appears to be Mona, but it's also about the fact that we can now able to actually take a visit to not only the theater, but as well as the forms of the museum as well, where the museum is basically, it's like the equivalent to Temple of Form, much like the forms of how it does it in WarioWare Smooth Moves. So, either way, and as well as that, when it comes to the theater itself, you can obviously able to have a rewatch with the forms of those specific cutscenes you want to rewatch, so that's besides the point. So anyway, so let's go back onto Wario stage again. So just in case, no matter what though, there are a few micro games I'm somewhat missing on, but thankfully though is about the fact that we can easily guarantee to able to actually get every single micro games no problem. Which is especially noticeable concerning for the fact that this is the intro stage, of course. So, anyway, a few things I want to talk about is about the fact that, well, today's date, of course, there is the 6th of July today, in some cases in 2024 today. So, naturally speaking, though, is about the fact that we've only just got about 20 more days to go until Paris 2024 Summer Olympics is going to be approaching. So, even then, though, I'm still excited to able to actually see it on live, on TV either way, so just in case about the fact that we can able to actually check out not only a brand new event, which appears to be breaking, stands for breakdancing, but it's also about the fact that we can able to actually see those familiar events from the past, ranging from the likes of athletics, as well as the forms of gymnastics, etc, etc. So even then though, hopefully I'll talk more about the actual specific results of Paris 2024 Olympics until later down the road, until to be more specifically by the end of this month, but we shall see what happens there. So either way though, anyway, there's also another thing I want to point out as well, and that's what appears to be about the fact that it looks like we've only got about, I would say, 12 more days to go until Nintendo World Championships NES Edition is going to be releasing not only on digitally, but it's also on the physical release as well. Like, to be more specifically, the deluxe set, which actually contains a bunch of content you find in that particular collector's item, I suppose. So, anyways though, there's also another thing I want to point out as well, is that there are some even more films has recently got celebrating its anniversary treatment as well, ranging from Ice Age 3, Dawn of the Dinosaurs, alongside with the forms of Spider-Man 2, and heck, even with the forms of South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut. So, for instance, happy 25th anniversary of the film's release of South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut. I've heard about it, but I've never actually seen it for myself. Mind you about the fact that because I'm pretty much more accustomed to The Simpsons already, well, this is clearly because no matter what though, I unfortunately though never watched any of those South Park episodes throughout the majority of my life, especially because I definitely heard about some hilarious moments here and there, but it's just about the fact that I've never actually experienced it for myself. So anyway, and also similar to the forms of how it does it in WarioWare Smooth Moves, if you manage able to completely done with certain transitions on specific stages, as you can tell, basically though you can able to perform certain forms during the actual break time segments with that particular transition right there before you move on to let's just say, much like the forms of the previous WarioWare games, you're able to actually come across into 3 levels for their specific micro games. There's level 1, level 2, as well as level 3. Level 1 is considerably easy, whilst level 2 is actually slightly tricky, whilst level 3 is by far the hardest of the bunch, because that's just clearly because no matter what though, about the fact you need to be not only fast for certain micro games, but it's also you have to be very careful not to make several mistakes in journey forms of specific micro games. Like, for instance, is about the fact that, oh yeah, every once in a while though, much like the forms of how it does it in both WarioWare Gold, alongside with WarioWare Gear Together, that basically though is about the fact that there are some micro games that it does manage to give you more time than the forms of how it does it back in the past. Well, that's just clearly because no matter what though, you can able to actually get the benefit for the doubt when it comes to able to accomplish certain micro games before you decide to able to succeed on something like this. So either way, oh yeah, there's also another thing I want to point out as well. That particular stage, where it comes to the forms of getting chased by something, is also remarkably similar to in WarioWare Smooth Moves, except unlike in WarioWare Smooth Moves though, that rather than getting chased by the forms of the giant boulder in the actual temple, so instead we actually getting chased by these specific guys. They just somehow managed able to try to chase after us after getting trespassing for that particular temple. So that's as far as I can able to expect for this point. So anyway, and when it comes to the forms of Ice Age 3, Dawn of the Dinosaurs, well, suffice to say, happy 15th anniversary of the film's release of Ice Age 3, Dawn of the Dinosaurs, which, according to what Sonic did tell me something, that basically though he went to see the film in 3D by the stand for the fact that he has to wear the 3D glasses in order to able to actually see the 3D perspective of that particular film in mind. Although, from what I can tell about the fact that was by far probably my favorite of the Ice Age films, because as far as I'm aware, despite the fact it's been a very long time since I actually have last seen that film, well, that's just clearly because at this point in time that I just somehow managed able to step away the Ice Age franchises for a very long time after that particular massive disappointment of the Ice Age Adventures of Buck Wild, because obviously though that film is just pretty miserable, especially considering with the actual art style, the animation just felt way off, and as well as that, there's no Scrat the Squirrel to be found on that particular film in mind. So, that's just me anyway though, and thus I did somehow moved on to the Rio franchises because it reminds me of so much of summer, because obviously though I do enjoy not only Rio 1, but it's also with Rio 2 for small extensions or something like that, or in some cases though for some aspects, but not by much for the sake of the forms of how the storytelling goes, but that's besides the point. So, anyways though, and as far as another film, I did somehow mention this earlier, and that's what appears to be Spider-Man 2, that, well, suffice to say, happy 20th anniversary of the film's release of Spider-Man 2. And while looking back on it though, I will say that Spider-Man 2 is fantastic while looking back on it though, especially concerning for the fact that unlike its other sequel, which appears to be Spider-Man 3, it might be my least favorite in terms of the forms of the original Spider-Man trilogy of films, at least back in the 2000s anyway, although I will say is about the fact that I do enjoy the first Spider-Man, alongside with the forms of Spider-Man 2, neither with the forms of Spider-Man Homecoming, alongside with Far From Home, neither No Way Home, despite with the forms of some interesting choices here and there, but I'm not gonna able to spoil things too much with all their specific story details, all things considered. So, anyways though, and there's also another thing I want to point out as well. Apparently though, a lot of people seemed able to be complaining about the actual price tag has been revealed for Donkey Kong Country Returns HD coming up in 2025. Like it did say about the fact that it's gonna cost about $60, despite the fact that it was basically it's just an HD port of specifically Donkey Kong Country Returns 3D, because as you probably already expect, it will decide able to contain the Cloud World based off from Donkey Kong Country Returns 3D, which I'm proud of, especially concerning for the fact that I think that could be a perfect opportunity, although we're not going to go for the entire Let's Play again, because obviously though we've already done this on the Wii, so no matter what though, what we attempt to do is that if we manage to decide able to be playing through Donkey Kong Country Returns HD on our spare own time, once that particular version comes out, and as a result, if I decide to play that game more often, and by that time, whenever we get to the point until likely on World 9 or something, that way I can able to actually show you guys how the Cloud World actually plays out to be, within a better quality, and you name the rest. So no need to worry about the forms of trying to record on a 3DS system, so that's perfectly fine by me. So, anyways, as you can tell, we've already done Octo Blocker for the third time, and as a result, yeah, that particular level 3 variant of Octo Blocker is actually quite tricky, especially because you need able to be so accurate with all this particular motion and stuff like that when it comes to swinging the hammer and stuff like that. But apart from that, it's pretty easy when you get the hang of it. So, and I believe at this point we are still basically stuck on level 3 for now on, so we can able to actually do some very tricky variants for certain micro games. So, anyways though, there's also another thing I want to point out as well. I've recently managed able to decide to go back onto playing Inside Out Thought Bubbles on my phone. That is clearly because not only for the celebration of the release of Inside Out 2, which it already did somehow release ever since in about a couple of weeks ago, but it's also about the fact that I somehow discovered there was actually a new update has been revealed in Inside Out Thought Bubbles game. Not only does it bring us even more levels, which I did somehow manage to double check, and apparently though, we did somehow going to able to be receiving 1,305 levels, and in addition to that, there's also some additional levels thanks to the forms of the promotion of Inside Out 2, which as a result, we can expect it able to actually meet up with the forms of 4 new emotions. So yeah, that's actually pretty swell. Although mind you about the fact I do need to get more accustomed to the forms of the actual specific aiming skills, and on top of that, how the controls actually plays out to be. So either way though, there's also another thing I want to point out as well. Speaking of which, when it comes to the forms of something relates to Inside Out 2, I did somehow manage to find out in during the forms of in this month so far that it may look like we're about to be getting the part 2 of Season 8 for Disney Speedstorm. And what do I mean by that? We're about to be getting Anxiety as a playable character in Disney Speedstorm. So either way though, that's actually quite interesting to say the least. I'm not exactly sure they might able to actually bring some more playable characters for that particular season. Maybe I'll find out and join at some point. So as you can see, we've able to actually unlock every single micro games in Wario stage right here. So of course, if you do manage to able to get every single micro games in that particular stage, obviously though you get yourselves a crown. So it's no longer the red flower this time, but rather the crown. So anyway, so let's move on to the next stage, which appears to be Mona right here. So not only we can able to actually learn one move, but two new moves, which are Sky Stretch and Night. So I'm very curious to able to actually know how these moves actually works out to be. And also one thing I want to mention about this before we dive right into this, there's no coins as currency this time around though. So this means about the fact that there's no shopping menu this time around. So oh well, no big deal, but that's besides the point. So anyways, let's jump right into Mona's stage now. So let's hop into this.
Time. Mermaid meet and greet. Swim with dolphins and rays? Wait, and mermaids too? Hey, Joe, I need a favor.
You ready, Mona? We're almost to the drop point.
Mermaids, here I come!
Okay, so it looks like we're going to be doing some scuba diving right here, and exponentially we can able to actually find some mermaids, so we shall see though.
Night. The voice from above speaks. Perform a grip hold with your hands stacked atop one another. Your dominant hand should be on top. The voice saw its people were defenseless, so it gave them a sword. After a few mishaps, it also gave them this form, so they knew not to hold the pointy end.
Well then, it looks like we're about to be learning Night form first, before we're able to actually learn the Sky Stretch form. So let's just say after this particular micro game, as soon as we're able to succeed, then sure enough though, we can able to actually learn to do Sky Stretch.
Sky Stretch. The voice from above speaks. Perform a grip hold. Then raise both hands high above your head, as if dangling from monkey bars. When the voice awoke and performed the Sky Stretch, its arms reached up through the clouds. Everyone on the island could see them for miles, blocking out a beautiful sunrise.
Something you might also realize is about the fact that every time whenever you do come across into a new form, the actual narrator keeps on saying, "From the voice from above speaks." Every time whenever you do manage to learn a new form you can able to perform. So, kind of weird honestly, but that's besides the point. And also, much like the forms of how it does it in WarioWare Smooth Moves, depending on what language you select, you're able to actually hear a different voice narrator. Like for instance, if I set the game in Japanese language, the actual voice sounds a bit different. So yeah, that's what I was expecting for this point. So anyway, and as far as I'm aware, speaking of which, when it comes to relates to Inside Out, that originally though, what I found out, that Inside Out 2 was expecting to also include yet another emotion called shame, but it was scrapped, so as a result, no wonder why that shame was actually cut from the final version of the film of Inside Out 2. So anyway, and I think fundamentally speaking of, what I've also found out, that according to Eddie Murphy, did say about the fact that he did say he thinks that Shrek 5 will be releasing during at some point in 2025, and also for what I can gather, that he began his voice recording from the film just recently. So who knows, maybe we'll find out more about it during at some point until either by the end of this year, or to be more specifically, through the majority of 2025. So again, we shall wait and see what happens in due time. So anyways though, and also as far as I'm aware, that basically though is about the fact that when it comes to the review scores of Inside Out 2, is actually really awesome, especially concerning for the fact that when it comes to critic scores, did somehow receives the film within 90% out of 100. So it's like 8 less compared to the films of how it does on the first one. But either way though, actually I'll get to more now in a moment, because here's the next boss micro game. And I believe this boss micro game is actually called Candle Bear, because get it, we're actually going to be taking control of the bear while just simply holding the candles. So basically all I have to do in this boss micro game right here is about the fact that we need to able to extinguish the fire onto that particular little cannon right there in order to able to get rid of this ginormous bug in the background. But here's the catch though, we need to melt the ice by the way, and it's also worth noting for we need to avoid a lot of rain, so, and also a lot of water as well. So it looks like no matter what though, a lot of ants are basically taking over for the majority of the dino table basically. So either way though, yeah, that's as far as I can think about it. Oh jeez, I think my arm starts to get a little bit achy every once in a while. But regardless of everything else though, luckily it's level 1 variant of Candle Bear. So yeah, that pretty much does it for Mona stage. And of course, we can able to get some more micro games on the second run, and that's what I can really say about it.
She's in trouble. Hold on, Lulu. I'll save you.
Oh, that was very unexpected. Apparently though, rather than just meeting up with the forms of a real mermaid, so instead we somehow bumped into Lulu, despite the fact that Lulu got trapped on that fish. So yeah, that was very unexpected. And also, for those of you probably wondering, who is Lulu exactly? Well, she was actually a character that was actually firstly introduced in WarioWare Gold. So, as a result, about the fact that no matter what though, she did somehow appeared in 3 WarioWare games so far, ranging from WarioWare Gold, WarioWare Get It Together, and lastly WarioWare Move It. So no matter what though, it's about the fact that it's kind of unfortunate that we can't play as her in this game. So because of that though, no surprise there, especially concerning for the fact that I can assure you about the fact that we might come across into small amount of stages or something. But either way, that's as far as I can try to able to explain about that. So either way, so far we've actually reached into like 13 points. So no matter what though, we can pretty much guarantee we can able to go back into this stage again, like I said before, to able to actually just to discover new micro games basically. So yeah, there's nothing else I can really talk about this. It's just about the fact that no matter what though, I got nothing else to say. Although apart from the fact that, well, there's one in particular thing I could probably describe for the sake of time, and that's what appears to be about the fact that, well, what I've managed able to find out something is that, unfortunately though, this game did not sell well compared to the forms of how it does it on the previous WarioWare games, including with the forms of some of those WarioWare games in the past. Oh, I have no idea what the heck is going on. Maybe, do I have to wiggle my wrists or something in order to able to make these stars shine? I think that the game expects me to tell me to do it.
Got this.
Well, it does take me a lot of learning curves in order to able to try to succeed several of micro games like this. So, anyways though, there's also another thing I want to point out as well. Well, better late than never I suppose, when it comes to the forms of one of those actors has recently celebrated its birthday. Yes, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Is that ever since in 6 days ago, well, suffice to say, happy 45th birthday for the actor Chris Pratt, who also did the voice of not only Emmett from the likes of the Lego Movie, as well as the Lego Movie 2, and also Star-Lord for the rest of the Guardians of the Galaxy films, and even Mario from the sake of the Super Mario Bros. Movie, and also Garfield from the Garfield movie. So, yeah, that's why I can really talk about that, personally speaking now. And as far as I do notice about this is that when it comes to the forms of Inside Out 2 audience score, as far as I'm aware, it also did receive very well when it comes to the forms of the review scores from audience, at least according to the forms of Rotten Tomato website. Like, it did somehow gives the film 96 out of 100, which is almost perfect. So as a result, it is really remarkable to able to actually let Inside Out 2 did somehow receives very well, not only for review scores, but as well as the box office ownage. So, at least to be more specifically with the highest grossing films for right now in this year so far. So, time will tell until specifically the later films will be released during that time. So, either way. Oh yeah, well, on the subject, when it comes to the forms of Donkey Kong Country Returns HD, I did somehow found out some of these specific changes that I've somehow discovered, at least according to the forms of the gameplay footage, alongside with the forms of some other stuff you know as well. Like, when it comes to the forms of gameplay changes, from the likes of the forms of the HD version of Donkey Kong Country Returns, that basically though, the gameplay changes is obviously do manage to bring in, as in a new mode from Donkey Kong Country Returns 3D, Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong will have 3 hearts instead of 2, like in the original version back on the Wii. So no matter what though is about the fact, it looks remarkably similar to the forms of how it does it in Funky mode in Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, basically. So that's why I somehow mentioned about the fact that the HD version of Donkey Kong Country Returns is obviously going to be inspired by the 3DS version, except the fact that obviously it brands in with the HD version. So anyway, and when it comes to graphical changes though, as the title indicates, Donkey Kong Country Returns HD is rendered in high definition rather than the standard definition of the Nintendo Wii version as well as the 3DS versions. So yeah, that's what I can really think about it. And also Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong now have more detailed fur, similar to the, well, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze models. So, and also the counters for collection or collectibles, such as bananas, uses a different font for some reason. And on top of that, the game uses the redesigned logo for the Donkey Kong franchise has been first seen since, you know, the Nintendo Switch remake of Mario vs. Donkey Kong. So, yeah, it didn't take that long to able to actually notice in this from the start. And also, what I've noticed is that the actual box art has been revealed, not just by the forms of Donkey Kong Country Returns HD, but as well as Super Mario Party Jamboree, as well as The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, and of course, Mario Luigi Brothership. I will say, I really love the box art with the forms of Super Mario Party Jamboree, because there's a lot more gem-packed more than anything. And on top of all that stuff, though, is about the fact that when it comes to The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, I love the fact that it shows us the actual Link alongside with Ganon on the top portion of the box art, whilst meanwhile you're able to actually force the players Zelda throughout the whole the adventure. And when it comes to the forms of Donkey Kong Country Returns HD, I do realize about the fact that they no longer shows the Tiki Tong Tower since the box is actually smaller. So at least that was one of those specific differences I somehow managed to stumble across into. So kind of strange to able to actually noticing this. So anyway, there's also another thing I want to point out as well, is that thank God I don't have to worry about just go ahead and trying to find IHOP restaurants, because I did manage to able to find out that there's now accessible when it comes to able to actually getting yourselves a free DLC of one of those specific costumes for Amy, and that's what appears to be Retro Diner style Amy costume is now for free for all of the forms of Sonic Superstars players. So for instance, it's about the fact that, well, we can no longer try to able to actually go into IHOP restaurants now. So this means about the fact that I can now able to actually access that particular costume now. So yeah, that's actually pretty swell. So at the very least, that's something. So anyways though, I would have liked able to explain something else for that matter though. To be more specifically, I also did somehow found out that another one of those movies in particular, called The Muppet Movie, the original, basically that film is now 45 years old as well. So generally speaking though, that's actually pretty cool and everything. So, I've obviously have no idea why I just paused it right there. But that's just mainly because one thing I have to admit to though right away is that the motion controls in this game is not perfect. Like, sometimes though it's about the fact that the calibration is a bit messy in some scenarios. Mainly, for instance, is about the fact that I was trying to able to actually completely done with level 2 of Candle Bear, but there are a couple of times though it's about the fact that the motion controls can be pretty much hit and miss. So I just really wish there was going to be a calibration system, much like the forms of how it does it for what does it say? The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD. At the very least, that game does have a calibration sorted, and that's besides the point. So yeah, basically though, like I said before, we definitely need to avoid a lot of rain, alongside with water as well, because if you accidentally extinguish all of the fire out with certain waters and drips, well, you failed, and as a result, all of those ant workers have won. So yeah, it's no fun. Especially considering for the fact that that was actually the worst performance I've ever done so far. 26 points I've somehow got into, so maybe it's because I blame on the forms of sometimes the controls might not work properly, but that's the only criticism I have with this game. So either way though, unlike the forms of how it does it in Smooth Moves though, it works flawlessly. So either way though, that's besides the point. So, and I'm somehow missing 2 micro games so far. So as a result, it's off to a great start. So either way though, hopefully again I will come across into those micro games off screen, so just in case I can able to show you guys every single micro games to see how this game actually has to offer. So with that being said folks, is that we got endings of this point right here. So join me next time for more of Let's Play of WarioWare Move It, is that we can able to actually access to not only 1 stage, but 3 stages. So we'll go for Crygor, Penny, and Mike first. So that's essentially what we're going to be doing next. So yeah, I'll see you guys until tomorrow. Later fellas.